I'm here with the Mayor of Central Hawke's Bay, Alex Walker. Kia ora, Alex, and thanks for joining me.
Kia ora, Andrew. Nice to be here.
Yeah, nice to see you again. It's that time of year. Everyone's busy running around. It's getting hot. But reflecting back on the year, and it was a year with your long-term plan and that, and obviously, biggest rates rise your ratepayers will have seen in forever, really. Um, uh, what do you think of the year? How did it go?
Wow, it's been huge, actually, in a number of ways. Huge rate increases just being one part of that. Look, I feel like coming into the end of this year, that in council, there is a skerrick of normality returning away from the scramble of that early response recovery from the cyclone, where, that really put everything into disarray. And so, what we've got now coming into the end of this year is that Central Hawke's Bay District Council has moved into a new space that was dictated in our long-term plan. We've undertaken some pretty big changes in our land transport team to be delivering better value and better outcomes on our roads. Outside of just the recovery, we've also landed funding packages on roading recovery. Those are all out for tender now to get underway in the new year. And all of our water renewals are now back up on track. And so I'm feeling like there's a little less trauma and a bit more proactive and really great work starting to transpire from our teams and a bit of normality.
That's interesting you say that because I mean the spectre of the cyclone still looms large, and also in how you get away from being so vulnerable to weather events, surely.
Yeah, absolutely, but we're now in a place that we can be a bit more proactive in how we solve some of those things. So our drinking water treatment plant in Waipawa, for instance, on Takakino Road that was heavily impacted from the cyclone. It supplies Waipawa's drinking water and Otani's drinking water, and actually earmarked for the future to be a backup through to Waipukaro as well. Um, we now have funding confirmed from the government to support us in actually a relocation of that drinking water plant, which is going to be underway in the new year as well. And so we've actually got the funding, the certainty, the plans, the contracts are out, the work starts to happen. And so nothing breeds a bit of confidence like action. And once you take one action and get things going, then a lot more does happen after that.
Where will it be relocated to?
It's going to be lifted not too far. It's going to be moved inland, so to speak, away from the river slightly,
Yeah.
and lifted up onto a tier that's higher than the current river plane. It's a resilience piece of work to create the best site for the future. A really great outcome for us.
And what happens in the meantime? Do you just keep going with the existing one and then just transfer it over?
So yes, but we have done a couple of things. We have reinstated the stop bank that was sitting on private land next door that was part of the protection. And also as we have rebuilt that plant, even just the simple things of putting the electronic equipment, instead of being at hands or eyes reach on the wall, it's actually higher up on the wall. And so it's a bit higher up away from the flood zone levels. So even just practical things like that that give us a bit more resilience, even just in the short term.
Okay, so you're quite confident as things go, because I mean, as you say, the roading and that is quite a bit you've got. I notice, I see from NZTA that you've got a big stretch of State Highway 2 coming into Waipawa that's been worked on. There's a lot going on, eh?
Yeah, there is. Well, look, let's be honest on our roads. We both on the state highways and the local network, we're probably a good 5 to 10 years behind, to be quite honest. That piece of rehab to happen on the main street in Waipawa over this coming summer, that's been on the books with Waka Kotahi for probably 5 years now. We've known that that's coming, and it's been put off and it's been put off. They started a bit, then they went away, and then they've come back. So actually, what we need is a really focused, highly productive piece of work that happens there over the next 3 months to get that done and get it done well. It's a notorious stretch of road that has been underinvested. And so that's what we're looking forward to. It will be disruptive. But the reality is we need better roads, and we're just going to have to put up with that in the short term to get to that outcome. And to be honest, I think in our roading network on our recovery sites, there's a little bit of the same patience required. We know we've got to get this stuff done. We need to get in as quickly as we can. It means we've got to be a bit patient with roadworks and the disruptions in the short term.
And how are the bridges going? Because you had a number of bridges that were taken out by Cyclone Gabrielle and that and affected and that. So how those got the rebuilds going there?
Yeah. So we've got a number that have been reinstated. We have got Douglas Cutting and up into Wakarara, which is now back up and running at full weight capacity. But there is another important one that we call Fletcher's Crossing that connects to the other side of the Makaroro River, which is still having some work done. That's not yet completed, so there's more work to do there. But look, we had government funding confirmed in October for this current financial year in terms of funding support. It was not as much as we would have liked to get through our whole program. So we ended up at an 89% funding assistance rate where we had been planning for 95. It's meant that we've had to reshape our program to be very clear about what the priorities are. And there are some bridges and locations that we're probably not going to get to in the short to medium term. There's one just outside of Otani, there's one just outside of Takapo that are actually not going to be part of the funding envelope for at least the short term. So some of those sites we've had to refocus on getting the most important things done.
Now, we've spoken lots about the fact that you don't have a big ratepayer base, but yet you don't want to keep pushing up. And I mean, I think your rates for this year were 20.9, was that correct? And
yes.
And what is the plan for next year? What is
year two of our long-term plan was sitting at 14% rates increase. But actually the heavier weight of that sits on our targeted ratepayers. Year two was at 18% for those that are in town and connected to water services. And so we're working through at the moment about how the work that's been done is rephased. Interest rates have come down. So there's a whole lot of moving parts in our budgets that will see that shift. We're actually workshopping some of that later this week. And a pretty clear view that we need to be way smarter with how things are being delivered. And we're seeing that in our business, which is great. So we'll be workshopping later this week about where that plan looks like. But to be honest, the headwinds for how local government deals with investing in infrastructure, unless there is a major system change, this is going to confound not just small councils, but all councils for quite some time. So things like the local water done well work actually becomes fundamental to how we shift this into a more sustainable place for the whole country, not just us.
I'm going to ask you more about that, but just in terms of, because I mean, 14% does seem a little bit optimistic as we talking now. Is there a chance it could blow out to 20% again, or what are you doing to prevent that?
No, the direction of travel on that is that number's going to come down because interest rates have come down. Some of our inflationary, the inflation in the construction sector has come down. There's a bit more competition in the sector. We are looking really carefully about where those activities come from and about how we get cleverer about the phasing of some of our projects as well. And look, the other thing that's happened for us this year is we set the budget to start on 1st of July. I just mentioned about Waka Kotahi and their funding. They didn't confirm until October. So there were things in our budget we thought we'd be doing in August, September and October, actually not going to happen until next year. So that just pushes some impacts on rates further out. So all of those things are advantages.